Remember that specific feeling? The Saturday morning sun through the blinds, the crinkle of the cereal bag, and the hum of the tube TV warming up. For a few precious hours, you weren't just a kid on the couch. You were in a distant galaxy, a haunted hotel, or the last line of defense against a toon invasion. There was a magic to 90s cartoons that just doesn't seem to exist anymore. Today, we're counting down the reasons why 90s cartoons hit different. Before the internet consolidated everything, cartoons lived in the wild world of syndication. This meant a show could pop up on your local station after school, on a different network on Saturdays, and then again on a UHF channel you found by fiddling with the rabbit ears. You had to hunt for your favorites. There was no guarantee you'd catch every episode in order. This accidental scarcity made finding that one episode feel like discovering buried treasure. Shows like Gargoyles or Batman, the Animated Series, built complex stories, trusting you to piece together the narrative mosaic week by week. They disappeared not because they failed, but because the TV landscape changed. Cable channels bought up blocks of programming, and the decentralized, chaotic syndication model that gave these shows a foothold slowly faded away, taking that sense of adventure with it. Look at your shelf. If you had one, it was probably lined with plastic heroes. The 90s was the golden age of the toy-to-cartoon pipeline. But here's the thing. The shows were often so good, you forgot they were commercials. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and G.I. Joe had decades of history, but a new wave like Street Sharks or Biker Mice from Mars would burst onto the scene with a fully formed, ridiculous, and utterly compelling mythos. They sold toys, but they also sold a lifestyle. They disappeared for a simple, brutal reason. The toys stopped selling. Once the merchandise sat on the shelves, the animated adventure that fueled it was pulled from the lineup, leaving behind a gloriously weird legacy of anthropomorphic animals and radical catchphrases. In 1992, Batman the Animated Series didn't just give us a superhero cartoon, it gave us film noir. It used dramatic shadows, mature themes, and a timeless Art Deco style that spoke to kids and their parents. This was part of a bigger shift. Networks realized animation could tell darker, more serialized stories. Gargoyles wove Shakespearean tragedy with corporate espionage. The Tick delivered absurdist satire. These shows respected your intelligence. They vanished because they were expensive passion projects in a world still ruled by toy sales and simpler formulas. When their passionate creators moved on or budgets tightened, the lights went out on this brief, beautiful era of sophisticated storytelling. For every brooding hero, there was a show powered by pure, unadulterated chaos. Animaniacs, Tiny Toon Adventures, and Freakazoid were like living cartoons. They broke the fourth wall, packed jokes for every age group, and moved at a breakneck pace. This was the legacy of classic Warner Brothers cartoons, filtered through a 90s sensibility. The writing was sharp, the music was orchestral, and the humor was layered. These shows disappeared as network priorities shifted. The expensive, music-driven animation made way for cheaper, faster styles. The chaotic, joke-a-second format found a new home, but the specific blend of orchestra, ink, and anarchy that defined them became a relic of its time. Some 90s cartoons looked you right in the eye and talked about the hard stuff. Hey Arnold explored city life and loneliness with a quiet realism. Doug narrated the agonies of childhood insecurity. Rugrats showed the world through a baby's brilliantly logical perspective. These shows felt like friends. They didn't need aliens or lasers. The drama was forgetting your permission slip or standing up to a bully. They made you feel seen. Their decline came from the corporate mergers of the late 90s. As studios consolidated, the unique voices of these creator-driven shows were often homogenized or canceled to make room for newer, broader properties, closing the chapter on a uniquely heartfelt era of animation. Saturday morning wasn't just a time slot, it was a destination. From 8 a.m. to noon, the big networks transformed into cartoon wonderlands. You'd flip between ABC, NBC, and CBS, each with its own lineup of heroes, comedies, and adventures. This was a shared cultural event. At school on Monday, you'd dissect what everyone saw. This tradition was killed by two things: changing FCC regulations that loosened requirements for educational programming, and the rise of dedicated cartoon channels like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, which offered cartoons every day. The special event was over. The magic of that concentrated weekly cartoon binge faded into the convenience of an all-day, everyday stream. This was the last era of hand-drawn cells meeting early computer magic. Shows like Reboot were marvels, being the first fully CGI cartoon. But even traditional shows experimented. Batman had its computerized color gradients. Spider-Man used 3D models for its swinging sequences. You can feel the craftsmanship. There's a texture to the ink and paint, a slight imperfection that gives it soul. This beautiful, hybrid style vanished almost overnight with the dawn of cheaper, faster digital production. The tactile process of painting cells was replaced by software. While it allowed for new wonders, it also meant the end of that specific, handcrafted aesthetic that made 90s animation feel so substantial. Close your eyes. You can probably still hear it. The 90s cartoon theme song wasn't just an intro. It was a mission statement, a mini-movie, and a total banger. It had to grab you before you changed the channel. Shows poured budget and talent into these 30-second symphonies. From the punk energy of the Powerpuff Girls to the epic orchestration of X-Men, these themes were masterpieces of condensed storytelling. They're etched into our brains. They faded as TV formatting changed. With the rise of DVRS and later streaming, the importance of that immediate channel surfing hook diminished. The theme song was often shortened or even skipped, ending its reign as a crucial art form. The 90s gave creators a surprising amount of leash to get strange. Courage, the Cowardly Dog blended horror with heartfelt emotion. The Angry Beavers was pure, surreal, buddy comedy. Real monsters made gross out cool. There was no algorithm saying what would work. Networks were experimenting, leading to an explosion of bizarre, creative concepts that would never get a green light today as a brand new idea. This weirdness wilted under corporate consolidation. As media companies became giant conglomerates, the financial risks grew. The preference shifted towards safer, more easily marketable ideas, pushing the truly eccentric shows to the fringe until they blinked out. This is the big one. 90s cartoons weren't just shows. They were a primary source of culture. In a pre-internet, pre-endless content world, these cartoons were your mythology, your comedy club, your fashion guide. You couldn't look up spoilers or binge a season. You lived with the characters week to week. They fueled your playground conversations and your notebook doodles. They were a shared, collective experience that wasn't mediated by an algorithm. They hit different because they were different. They were the final, brilliant campfire stories of a connected, yet not always online childhood. They didn't disappear because they got worse. Our world just changed around them, turning those Saturday mornings into a cherished, closed volume on the shelf of our memory. So, maybe it wasn't just the cartoons. Maybe it was us. The time, the place, and that specific Saturday morning feeling of infinite possibility. It's a chapter that's closed, but the good news is the reruns are always on in our minds. What was the 90s cartoon that shaped you? Was it the action, the comedy, the sheer weirdness of it all? Let's keep the conversation going down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane, be sure to subscribe to American Rewind. We've got more stories from where you came from. Thanks for watching, and remember, knowing is half the battle.